Welcome to episode 269 of the Bear Trap on the Boom Bust channel, a Bears podcast by a Bears fan. I'm your host Terry, and today recapping our Week 9 loss against the Tennessee Titans. So, yeah, I mean, it's not a whole lot to go through, and it took me a little bit of time because there was a chunk of the game I had to switch to radio while I was doing something. And I wanted to go back and watch it, so just did that real quick. But yeah, overall, it's not a lot to really go through because it's the same old song. It's a broken record, and it was a very interesting matchup too because you had two teams. Well, you had our team where our offense is not good, really at all. But then you had the Titans where their defense hasn't been playing good at all either, despite having some good players. And so it was really a question of who was going to step up there. Now, one thing that everybody's talking about now that definitely talking about this week, but something I've been talking about for a while is the offensive line. There's not a whole lot you can do in the NFL when the offensive line is not good. Now, if we had a elite offensive line, I still don't think Foles is a top tier quarterback. We know Trubisky isn't either. So it still would have we would still have a little bit of limitation with what we could be as an offense, but it would make things a lot easier. And then you had the Titans, who offensively is exactly what most Bears fans wish we were. And even though we did a good job on that run game, you had Ryan Tannehill make some plays when needed. And so, again, I don't think Ryan Tannehill is as great as some people are acting either. And I think first half definitely was showing that. But there was some times where it's like, we don't need you to light it up like Mahomes. That we wish you could do that. But we do need you in some moments to make some plays. And that was the difference of this game because really it's just kind of either 3-3 or nothing to nothing for most of the game if Tannehill doesn't make some big plays. So, they obviously deserve that part. But overall, it's the same thing. Our defense, even though they're not locked down, they do a good job. But then the offense just doesn't respond. And it's not them being tired. I hate hearing that excuse. That's not what it is. But it's only so much the defense can do, especially when you play bend, don't break. I mean, as good as we are in certain areas, it's very obvious at this point, I think, to everybody that if we aren't getting great coverage, we can be very suspect and give teams a lot of time to pass, and that can end up bad for us as well. And if people vertically challenge us, we can get in predicaments as well because, honestly, our safety play isn't always disciplined. And on top of that, our corners aren't built for vertical passes. So, we have our moments, but we play well. But when you give the other team offense, so many chances to, expose you at some point, you give up some points. And again, that's what happens to us after our offense just can't put up points and puts us in bad situations. I mean, I wouldn't say always. It's not like, that the offense always, or it's not like the opposing offense always has a short field. I'm not saying that, but again, just 3 and outs. That doesn't help field position, turnovers, all that. It's the same old song. And offensively, the offensive line, we can't get a run game going. And honestly, David Montgomery is part of that. He has so much talent, and people mistake that for meaning you're a good running back, but it's not. Like, he doesn't put it together yet, and he doesn't know how to package that. He's doing way too much sometimes and takes himself out of a play. But again, the blocking is not stellar either. And then Cordero Patterson honestly looked way better as a running back today than David Montgomery did. Because Cordero was, I wouldn't say he always understands this, but at least today, he saw when the hole was there, he planted and took it instead of trying to dance and wiggle and wait for something. So he just performed better today as a running back. But overall, it was just, it's tough. And obviously, we don't have a good offensive line to start off with. So then when you got all these backups, it makes it a lot harder for you to do anything offensively that's not short. But I've been frustrated with the offensive philosophy for a while. Like, I get we don't have a good offensive line, which is still on the team. But even as a coach, what I don't get is we have this philosophy, even with Trubisky, of like, get the playmakers the ball and let them make plays. It's kind of like either we're going to get a 50-50 shot or we're just going to get them the ball quickly and get some rack yards. That's what we really like. We like the yak or the rack yards. And that's fine, but I don't understand why we do this curl thing. Like this little curl and hitch, that's our favorite stuff. And I just don't get it. I mean, I understand that's a way to get the ball to the receiver where they can turn around and make a play and everything. But you just really put yourself in contested situations when you do that a lot. I mean, even you think at the last or late in the game when Anthony Miller had the fumble, because you're doing that curl stuff. And again, it's a contested type situation. It's not many times where they're one-on-one because we like throwing it over the middle. So if you throw a curl on the outside, you might be one-on-one, turn around, make a play, beat the corner, all that. But a lot of times when you're over the middle, it ain't a lot of run after the catch opportunity. And so to me, I get it. You want to be more, hey, we can't go vertical and because our offensive line or whatever, and we can't do all these other things. So we want to rely more on our playmakers, who we got receivers that can do some stuff with the ball. Well, to me, we should be more of a crosser team, like a misdirection team where we're running crossers or over routes, whatever you want to call them. We're running the mesh routes. We're running that stuff a lot more, where you think of a team like the LA Rams. And to an extent, well, not recently, but back in the day with Andre Johnson, that's what Houston used to do a lot. They run a lot of inside zone, do a lot of zone play action, crossing routes, and just getting people from one side of the field to the other. And then the thing about that, like the Rams, once teams that aren't disciplined have someone break loose and you get the ball to them, there's so much space for them to run after the catch because you're giving them the ball on the move. Even if they don't make a big play after, they have more momentum to make a play. This whole stop your whole momentum and run a hitch, I just don't like that as a philosophy. That's just me personally. So, yeah, and we'll just continue to struggle because we play action a ton. We play action a whole lot for a team that can't run the ball. And again, it's kind of a vicious cycle where teams don't really run the ball. Well, in college and some NFL teams don't run the ball like they used to. You don't have offensive linemen like you used to, which in turns means you don't have linebackers like you used to. So these linebackers, these young guys, they do get deceptive or they get deceived by the play action. But, you know, it ain't going to be too much you can do that where you can do that all game long. You might get a couple plays, but eventually they're not going to give you anything deep if it's not a true play action. I'm talking about we are actually worried about your run game, so we're coming downhill when you play action. And if you don't have that part of it, the play action gimmick is going to fall off eventually, and that's what happens to us. We get that stuff early, but then later in the game, especially when you get down, that play action stuff is gone, and you can't hide your team. I say that all the time. Like, people always, again, especially with Trubisky and Lamar and all these other people, man, just be effective. You do this. At the end of the day, when you really have to play football, you can't hide your quarterback, can't hide your offensive line. And so while that stuff, again, is nice in the early game, it doesn't last. And so, again, it's just weird to see kind of our philosophy. It's a little frustrating, but I mean, we're moving the ball, you know, pretty decently. But again, this is a really low-ranked defense. And so we were moving the ball, and still we couldn't finish, and we have mistakes or we don't execute. And the offensive line is a big part of that. I'm not absolving everybody of their issues, but the offensive line is a big part that's going to hold the offense back. And it's going to be that way until you decide to put resources into it. So anyway, go to the comment section. Let me know what you think. Share it around, get the conversation started. Thumbs up, subscribe, and remember, stay up and bear down.